when it comes to working on your suits, it's not even up for debate that sound is definitely the focal point of boss battles and factories and whatever you may be doing. So, most of the time you will be using sound, and if you're soundless, then most of the time your strategy will consist of filling in the gaps where sound can't hit. And what I mean by that, say 310s come out in 12, 2 fogs, 1 trunk, and since you don't have sound, you're going to storm cloud the 12. So if you're soundless, you'll still be in sound centric battles. You'll just be helping out where the tunes with sound can get to. Now, with that all that being said, I feel like a lot of people don't know when they should save their fogs and when they should use them because of sound being so important and you only have 3 foghorns. Fogs are really important and they come at a premium. And a lot of people don't know the correct strategy to preserve them and maximize their efficiency. Now, the most obvious case is the bullion mint, and this was a problem especially in Toontown Online. People were way too conservative with their fogs when working on Cashbot, getting their cog bucks to try to get that promotion. If you're around Toontown Online, then you probably remember the 1 fog rule, which I'm just going to put it out there. I think the 1 fog rule in the bullion mint is an absolute abomination and never should have been a thing because it makes everything take so much longer because you're basically just taking hits the entire time and you're taking hits and then you're wasting time tuning up and then you kill the cogs. Whereas if you just double fog everything with an 11, well, I don't mean everything. Obviously the 10s don't double fog those, and then if there's 1 11, then that's the only time that I think you should do the 1 fog rule is when there's 1 11. But I think there's only up to 2 battles that can have 1 11, which is the Doom Room. The 2 battles on the sides only have 1 11, and then there's the 1 battle with the 10. Unless you get unlucky and you get 2 battles with the 10s, which is the floor without the Doom Room. But most of the time, there will only be 3 battles in the bullion mint where you don't need to be using 2 fogs. But other than that, you should just be using 2 fogs. Because yes, you'll obviously run out of fogs before you get to the end. But you'll still conserve time because you're out of fogs. Okay, well that means that there can't be more than a few battles left. Now you can lure them in, and assuming everything hits, if you use correct strategy and everything hits, then it will still be faster than the 1 fog rule because you won't be taking any hits and you'll be taking out cogs efficiently instead of taking hits and wasting time tuning up. And that's why I think the 1 fog rule is pointless because it actually adds on so much more time than if you just double fog most of the battles and then lure the last few and use correct strategy. Like organic throw is amazing in mint, and so is trap, because if you have 3 people with trap or 3 people with organic throw, or if 1 tune lures and 3 people have a common either trap or organic throw, then that's 3 cogs you take out on the first turn, and then you just take care of the first one, and that is way faster than the 1 fog rule. Now, obviously, as far as I can see, the 1 fog rule in bullion mints is completely dead, and that is definitely a positive thing when it comes to the transition of TTO to TTR, because, like I said, the 1 fog rule just made Cashbot such a pain to do. Way more of a pain than it should have been. But that's dead and gone, so we're going to get to things that are still prevalent in Toontown Rewritten. And the first thing I want to go over is the VP and the CFO. Namely, now when I say the VP and the CFO, I mostly mean the VP's first round and the CFO's cog battle, because They are very similar, except obviously the CFO's cog round is much, much longer. And they are similar because there's a lot of level mixing. Like, you might have two 12s and then two 5s come out. And that's the type of situation where you can save fogs. And this is why drop is so important, I feel like, because in this situation drop is a godsend if it's maxed, of course, because if it's two 5s and two 12s, then you just have two trunks or an Iuga in a trunk, and the 5s are gone, and then you can have two tunes use pianos on 12s, and then they're gone. You didn't have to fog. There's no reason you should be if you have two tunes with drop, then there's no reason you should be triple fogging in that situation. Now, some tunes, however, try to take it too far. Try to take saving their fogs too far when in a situation where trying to conserve fogs just isn't efficient. And I bring that, and a specific example, something that happened to me today is that I was in a CFO, and the very first row of cogs, we got kind of a bad row, because usually the first row of cogs in a CFO, you have maybe two big cogs and two little cogs, but our first row of cogs on this occasion were two 12s, a 10, and a 9, and in that situation, triple fogging is your best bet. You're not going to kill all the cogs unless you use rewards, of course, which that would kind of be a waste. But if you're just using regular gags, then you can't really kill all the cogs without triple fogging. And we got there, and this dog, whose name I do not remember, he tries to drop one of the 12s, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, well, I mean, that's not gonna work. And then he obviously wasn't budging on it, so I just dropped one of the 12s, and then someone, I think caked the 10, and then my friend Ugly Corny fogged, and the fog missed anyway, but had the fog hit and had everything else hit, we still would have had a cog alive. So it wasn't the most efficient thing to choose. Like I said, sometimes you just have to use three fogs. If there's not a way if you're trying to save fogs, but in a way that doesn't get rid of all the cogs, then you're wasting time and you're not choosing efficient options. You should always choose the most efficient option when playing with sound. If three fogs is the only thing that's going to take out all the cogs, then use three fogs. Now, a different situation, if that 10 I mentioned had been a 9, then we could have just used two fogs and used two storm clouds on the 12s, and that would have saved one fog. That would have been totally different. But since that 9 was a 10, then, it couldn't be helped. You had to triple fog. And then the next new row of cogs we got was two 12s, an 11, and a 10. And I thought, okay, well, obviously he knows, all right, we got a triple fog here. And he tries to use another piano, and I was just sitting there like, what? And I thought maybe he was soundless, and so I asked him if he was soundless, and he said no. And I was just like, okay. And me and Ugly Corny, we try to tell him, we really shouldn't be dropping in these situations. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously we could lure and then stun for you, but it's the beginning of the battle, and we all have Foghorns, so we shouldn't be luring. We should be killing. We should be using sound. That way we can kill all the cogs and we can get through the battle quickly and efficiently. So we basically told him to, stop using drop. And then the next row of cogs we got was a 12, an 8, and two short changes. And, that situation, you can bring out, you don't have to use any fogs. You can bring out the drop gags. So I dropped the 12, the other tune storms, and then Ugly Corn and the dog sound, and then the dog just jumps on me. He says, stop using drop. And I explained to him, like, your strategy, it didn't make any sense. It wasn't efficient because all the cogs weren't going to die, and we were just gonna take an unnecessary hit when we could have just triple fog. This is different, and I can use drop in this situation and prevent any of us from having to use a foghorn. And his argument was basically like, yeah, well, neither your way isn't efficient either, using 3 fogs at the very beginning. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, that phrase "save your powerful gags," it's the opposite. You use your good stuff first to, you don't get in a battle and then immediately start luring and then save your sound for the later cogs. No, when you get in a battle, you start sounding right away. So you can get things going quickly. So his logic didn't make any sense. So like I said, that speech jet phrase, "save your powerful gags," I don't know why it's in the game, because it's not how, I don't think that's how anyone plays. Obviously, it's different for level 7s. If you're getting down to the end and then you're out of sound, that's when people start bringing out level 7s. But, the phrase "save your powerful gags" was in the game before level 7s were even a thing. So, excluding level 7s, you obviously should not be saving your big gags for whatever reason. It doesn't make any sense. You should come out in guns a-blazing and use your big stuff right away so you get through the battle quickly. And then we have the CJ. CJ is I think the CJ's battle round, actually, I want to say it's the easiest, because I think VP's is the easiest just because it has the least cogs, but CJ's battle round is probably the least complicated, because the lowest level can be is 8, so you hardly have to bring out use 2 Augas or 2 Trunks and then use a Cloud and then use a Piano. You hardly ever have to do that. The most you ever have to do most of the time is maybe 1 Fog, 2 Trunks, and a Piano on the 12, because usually in the CJ you're just going to be straight up sounding, because the cogs can only be so many levels. So CJ is probably, like I said, it's not the easiest, but it's probably the most simple in terms of sound strategy and fog combinations and whatnot. And then the CEO. Now, I don't like the CEO, and I made this clear in one of my previous videos. I don't like that boss, and one of the reasons is because the battle rounds, especially the first battle round, is basically centered around your team taking hits the entire time, because in the CEO, it is actually not feasible to not follow the one. It's not very practical to abandon the 1 fog rule, just because they are V2.0s and there are a lot of cogs. So if you just two fogs, 3 fogs, then you're going to run out very quickly, and you're still going to have loads and loads of cogs left. It would be one thing if by the time you ran out there were only a few, but the CEO is a completely different case. So the 1 fog rule is still kind of practical in the CEO, unless you have someone that wants to just spam sound unites, which if you have someone that wants to spam sound unites, then fog away. But yeah, the CEO is probably, the first battle round is easily my least favorite, because in the previous 3, if you use good strategy and gags hit, then you can just blow through cogs just like that. And I feel like those 3 rounds, when you have a really good group in the first 3 bosses, the VP, the CFO, or the CJ, it's just really satisfying to have everyone clicking, everyone on the same page, and just blowing through rows of cog after row of cog. But you can't really do that in the CEO, like I said, unless someone is spamming sound unites, or you're all just spamming rewards or spamming level 7s, then you can blow through the cogs. But in a normal CEO battle, you're not really going to be blowing through cogs after the first few rounds, because the first few rounds typically are filled with 9s and 10s, but once you get to the 11s and 12s and you're running really low on sound, and obviously 1 fog isn't killing them anymore in 1 hit, then that's when the CEO just becomes a slog, and something you have to just grind through. And that's probably why the first round of the CEO is probably my least favorite. Now, obviously, it's different in the second battle round, because if you have raiders, you just keep 2 fogging, and then if you have cheeses, you just keep 3 fogging, because it probably is the most efficient way, just because luring in the second battle round, especially if you have cheeses, is the biggest pain because everything is level 12. So unless you're using fires or whatnot, if you're just using gags, then you can't kill a 12 by yourself, and you always have to have someone helping you. So if one person's luring, then it basically means you're just picking one cog off one at a time. So that is obviously inefficient. So I think that's why the just going all out on the fogs in the second round is efficient. Plus, like, by the time you're done feeding, actually, I'm not sure. If you feed well, then you shouldn't have too much of a problem dealing with the cogs that are still there. Well, actually, I take that back, because in a lot of CEOs I've done, basically after the first round, everyone will gather together, and someone will use either a gag up ball or a gag up sound, which that's really generous of whoever does it. And usually, if no one else does it, I usually do it, because if you don't do that, then the second battle round is actually the biggest pain ever, because you already wasted so many gags going through the first round. But like I said, if you have someone willing to spin to unite, or a Professor Pete once the battle actually starts, or Melody wavers, then you can kind of blow through the first few rounds of cogs in the second battle round, and then start luring. But I didn't really. I'm kind of getting off track, because my main point was the first battle round. First battle round, saving fogs whenever you can. Doing the 1 fog roll is probably your best bet, as much as I hate it, just because, like I said, the CEO is just a slog. But it can't really be helped. There's really, like I said, it's the exception to this rule is if someone wants to spam rewards. But if you're playing normally, then again, the CEO's first battle round is just going to be a slog no matter what. If you use all your sound right away, then you still have tons of cogs to deal with. If you don't use your sound all the way, then the 1 fog rule is going to not work as well anymore when you get to the bigger cogs and you just start taking hits. So CEO's first battle round, that's why it's my least favorite. Either way, it's going to be a slog. Save your sound, don't save your sound. Whereas in the other battle rounds, if you're smart about sound usage, then you're going to blow through cogs. Just keep blowing through them, and the battle round is going to be smooth. You're not going to take any hits, or you're going to take minimal hits, and you're going to be done in no time. But in the CEO, generally, no matter what you do, you're going to take hits, and it's going to be a slog. So I hope that gave some people some more insight on how they should be using their sound, because there are a lot of tunes that, know the strategy of dropping the 12 if there are a bunch of 9s, or if there are 2 10s, or 2 9s and 2 12s, double fogging and then clouding the 12s. There are a lot of tunes that know those strategies, but there are still a lot of tunes that don't know those strategies, and that when I try to go for it, say, if it's the 2 12s and the 2 9s, I'll immediately bring out a Stormcloud for the 12, and then a tune that might not know that strategy will lure. So there are still a lot of tunes that don't know these quote-unquote advanced strategies to saving sound. So if any of you listening didn't know those strategies, well, now you know, and I hope that they will benefit you in your future boss runs, and Boolean runs or what have you. So yeah, that's it for me for now. I will see you guys in the next one.